What's up everyone, welcome back to Beyond ARTV. My name is John and it's time for another episode of Hate It or Love It. Nickelback are the band on the docket today, one of the most universally hated bands, at least most people claim to hate them. But what are 5 reasons why people actually hate Nickelback? Now, me personally, I don't hate Nickelback. I think a lot of people would assume that I do just because, oh, he's a music critic or he talks about music online. He must want to blend in with everybody else and hate Nickelback. I can't outright say that. I definitely have things that I do not like about these guys, and I will definitely weigh in with each of the points, but keep in mind while you're watching today that these are 5 reasons that I've deduced from doing a little investigating online, just what I've heard from real life friends, other people in the music community that I've talked to over the years. I've boiled it down to 5 different points why people hate them. I'll weigh in with my own opinions and give my overall thoughts on Nickelback at the end. If you enjoy the video today, please drop a like on it. Keep in mind whether you do love this band or hate them, this is just meant to be a discussion. This is not a breeding ground for hate. So if you do enjoy the video, a like really does help YouTube know to recommend it in their algorithm. I would appreciate it. Subscribe for the love of music, and let's talk about Nickelback. Reason number 1, everything they do sounds the exact same. I've been seeing this argument since their 2005 album All the Right Reasons released. It's something that I actually picked up back in the day, not knowing a ton about them. I had heard a few of their singles get play on Fuse and VH1, and I got access to the internet in my house for the first time in like 05, 06. I started to hop on internet forums discussing music, and I saw a lot of people talking shit about Nickelback. I think that the consensus at the time was kind of that their early material, like The State, or even 2001's album that really put them in the limelight, that had the hit single How You Remind Me, #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, that album was Silver Side Up. And I think a lot of people felt that they had strayed from their early roots, and they had kind of condensed it down to make it a little bit dumber for the mainstream, and now they were following a very strict formula. I think on Metacritic, All the Right Reasons is sitting at like a 43 out of 100. It's one of the lowest, most negatively reviewed albums that I've ever seen, but I genuinely don't hate the record. It's something that did see a lot of success in the years that have followed, from Dark Horse to No Fixed Address and all of the other records. I feel that Nickelback have followed that formula. They always indicate that one single is like for rock stations and for rock singles, and then you've got the one mainstream single, you've got like If Everyone Cared, and then you've got Something in Your Mouth. They're definitely trying to appease both fan bases, following a very strict formula, and for that reason, I can probably agree with they usually sound the exact same on most of their records. It's not always awful because maybe it's fan service, but you would think that over time, maybe they would grow a little bit, and occasionally they'll show signs of that, like Feed the Machine, but for the most part, they really haven't indicated that. Number 2, Nickelback don't deserve their level of fame. They've definitely attained something huge. They are one of the best-selling bands of the 21st century. In fact, in the 2000s, they're the best-selling musical group in the United States, only behind the Beatles. Nickelback and the Beatles. Saying that they don't deserve their level of fame that they've attained is certainly something that a lot of people would call into question, and I can understand where they're coming from. But it's not like they did something cheap, I guess, in the sense that they pulled these huge stunts to get to where they are, or did something to kind of gain the system or gain the charts. They developed a following of a very specific demographic. There were obviously people who loved the singles and would just listen to them casually, maybe buy them on iTunes back in the day, but I think they connected with an audience of people, men and women, who liked rock music, and they didn't care that much about all the frills, all the fancy stuff. They just wanted to hear Chad Kroeger singing about being a rock star and doing all these other things, like going up and tearing up the town, or else occasionally having a sentimental moment. Do they deserve their level of fame? Well, I think, who am I to really step in and say you don't deserve to be famous or to have fans? I mean, their popularity has waned over the past decade, but they still have a pretty intense loyal following, people who will buy anything that they put out, any record that drops. That's totally fine. I really do not care. It doesn't affect my life. It's not like Nickelback are making headlines every week for doing some dick move. They're a little bit strange, a little bit out there, but if people want to go to Nickelback concerts and buy their albums, then fine. They're not that egregious. Claim number 3 when it comes to why people hate Nickelback. there's no originality in the band whatsoever. Now, this point I would be more inclined to agree with than most of the others, simply because it's kind of true. They really have kind of borrowed from not only their own formula, but other styles of kind of hard rock, occasionally that butt rock that just really seeps with something uncomfortable that I don't want to listen to. That's a personal preference though, but looking at it totally unbiased, just from an outsider's perspective, if somebody showed me Nickelback, I could sit down and listen to this band and say, well, it sounds like they're following a very, very strict concoction that they've made themselves over the years. Their singles have the typical verse, bridge, everything. They're gonna pull out something else for this part of the song, and you can see how they're maneuvering and shaking and working the industry. They have the way that they roll and tumble, that's all well and good, but it does bother me a little bit that they've never really grown or matured all that much. I mean, it's clear that every member of the band is at least competent to some degree of what they can do with their musical instrument, and I don't hate Chad Kroeger's voice all the time, at least some tracks I certainly do, but it seems like they could do a lot more, and they're kind of refusing to grow, and I feel like that's kind of limited them, and of course, it's hurt their image in the long run, and has solidified them as being one of the most hated bands. Oh, Chad, why? Why you gotta be weird, man? Chad Kroeger, he has a reputation for being this weirdo. From everything that he blocked on the Canadian charity broadcast, apparently he wouldn't let that air after they filmed something, and Nickelback just said no. Writing sessions with 5 Seconds of Summer where all of the boys were like, he was just looking up hot girls dancing, typing it in on Google, and then the numerous interviews that he's done over time, he just keeps kind of portraying himself as this weird dude that has these weird fetishes, not necessarily fetishes, but he's just like some old dad that doesn't exactly know how the internet works. He's out there in his own lane just floating around, and I kind of love how memeable he is. No hate to Chad as a person, I don't know him, but his poses, his faces, his curly hair that people just seem to really hate for whatever reason, it's the face of something. It's because Chad represents Nickelback. He is the frontman of this band, and people love to come down harshly on him. If it's all in good fun, then fine. I love the memes, I love the photograph memes, but outside of that, let the man live, let him be weird, let him do whatever the hell he wants to do, because I don't feel that's a fair reason to just hate Nickelback's music because Chad's a little bit out there. The fifth and the final most important reason you hate them because everyone else claims to. A Bandwagon Effect has never taken such a toll on a band that I've ever seen. People love to hate Nickelback. And I definitely do hate some of their music. Like I said, I am not going to stand up for everything that Nickelback have done. In fact, I rarely, if ever, listen to their music, at least if I have my way about it. But it's not something that I seek out, but it's also not something that I hate. You genuinely probably hate Nickelback a little bit more than you actually do because it's something that you say. Of course, we like to have a punching bag, and everybody's gotta have one. Every decade has one, and Nickelback have remained a punching bag for a while. Perhaps they will pass that torch off to the Chainsmokers or somebody else, because it seems like with their popularity fading, the fact that they are still very memeable and hateable to some degree, people are gonna forget over time, and kids will no longer know, look at this photograph, and Nickelback, and Savin' Me, and Rockstar, Something in Your Mouth, Burn It Down, and all these other hit songs. It's kind of fun to see how Nickelback have just ridden this wave. They've overcome the hate. They rarely speak out about it, which is something that I kind of find admirable. I mean, if you were this hated, if you were this universally hated, it seems like maybe you would give up, stop trying, stop doing interviews or something, but Nickelback continue to do the cycles. They continue to put out music, and for that, I have to say more power to you. I know I couldn't do it. My ego certainly can't handle all of those shots, but Nickelback are still here, 2019, churning out music for better or for worse. That concludes this episode of Hate It or Love It. Let me know your thoughts on Nickelback in the comments section down below. Do you love them, like some of their songs, or do you just outright hate them and you feel that you have good reasons to back it up? I totally understand if you do. In fact, I personally detest a lot of their music, and I could totally understand why you wouldn't be into it. But I would love to hear any and all thoughts down below. Keep in mind that these were the internet's reasons, the 5 reasons that I presented. I weighed in with my own thoughts. So if you would like to drop a like on the video, it would be greatly appreciated, and subscribe for the love of music. I know what would be fun. Check out a Nickelback review that I've done in the past so you can see more of my detailed thoughts on them. Tap that card right there, or tap here for another recent video I posted on the channel. Other than that, all of my social media accounts, including my Patreon page where you can support me, are listed down below, and I'll see you soon for more right here on Beyond ARTV.